Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is expected, as I said, to be in Winnipeg to make his announcement later today. Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is also in the city. He's going to be meeting with Premier Wab Kinew. He is here as well, I suspect, to talk a little bit about what's going to be going on in Elmwood, Transcona moving forward. Jagmeet Singh is in studio right now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
So why don't we start with Transcona? We know there's an upcoming by-election that's going to happen there. Winnipeg MP Daniel Blakey resigning and going to go work for the province. What are your thoughts on the safety of that seat? It has been held by a Conservative in the past when Stephen Harper was at the federal level. It was held here, provincially by a Conservative. So it could change.
Well, I would say that the good people of Transcona Elmwood have seen the benefit of having a new Democrat fighting for them. And I would make the contrast or the choice that the people have. I think it's a choice that all Canadians have. You've got an out-of-touch Liberal government that has not really taken seriously the problems that people are going through and don't act unless there's a crisis, and even then often don't act, or unless we force them and push them to do things like we have with dental care and farmer care. Or the Conservatives, who also, I would say, people in Manitoba know very well what Conservatives do. We just saw an election where the Conservatives were soundly defeated because Conservatives took away the things that people needed. They took away health care. They took away from the programs that people need. And that's exactly what Pierre Poilievre wants to do. He wants to take away health care. He wants to privatize it. He's not really hiding it. His health minister has been out about saying he wants to be the last health minister ever at the federal level, meaning he wants to privatize and sell off our entire healthcare system, which I know the people of Manitoba will reject. And I know the people of Elmwood Transcona will also reject. They believe in a universal healthcare that's there for people. And it doesn't matter how much you earn, but it's there, it's affordable, it's accessible. That's what we need.
What do you expect to come from your meeting specifically on Manitoba issues as you meet with the Premier today?
Well, I always want to understand what the concerns are directly from the people. So I make it a priority of mine to spend time across the country. And I'm really excited, though, with an NDP government here in Manitoba. Premier Kinew has really shown what you get with a new Democratic government. You get someone that's focused on the things that people care about, focused on healthcare like you laid out, with investments in healthcare workers. We know that's a major concern, the shortage of healthcare workers. And there's a response to really meet the needs of people. And investments in hospitals. We saw lots of closings of important emergency rooms and hospitals under the Conservatives, and New Democrats are going to reverse that. We also see some really good initiatives around affordability, and that's a concern that I have. How do we make life more affordable? So I'm looking forward to hearing from the Premier about that and sharing some of the work that we're pushing for.
I just want to ask you some questions around housing, because obviously it's a crisis across this country.
Absolutely.
And here in Manitoba. I'll just get you to put the headphones up for a moment. I apologize. I should have asked you off air. This is a very short clip. So earlier this morning on the show, Dwayne Bratt was on. He's a political science professor at Mount Royal University. So he was responding this week to the federal government, Trudeau's government pledge for $6 billion for this Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund. Here's what he said.
It sounds like a lot of money until you start to break it down, and it's about 30,000 units across the country, right? So you'd look at a couple hundred units max in Winnipeg, for instance. There's also a bunch of strings attached, which has caused a lot of political confrontation. An exception, and this is important, is with Manitoba. I think you will see an agreement reached between the Kinew government and the Trudeau government. But in other provinces, particularly those with Conservative premiers, they've already come out and said, no, this is garbage.
Other provinces, just when he went on to elaborate, we're taking exception. There's conditions on the funding, things like green building requirements. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the relationship between the federal level and the provincial level in solving this crisis in this country, and what your party's, federal NDP party's plan would be.
Right. I would say the major difference between us and the Liberals is that, and I think this difference also applies to the Conservatives, neither the Liberals or Conservatives, when they talk about housing, seem to have a focus on affordability. And I've spoken with builders. They say, well, if I'm given more ability to build, I'm going to build buying land that's being sold at market rates, using materials at market costs, and the folks doing the work are going to be paid the market rates. And so you're going to see more market housing. So that's condos and homes that most people can no longer afford. So if all the Liberals and Conservatives want to do is just build more that people can afford, how does that solve the affordability? And that's why my focus is we need to actually build affordable homes. Look at the story that you led off with, where a senior is spending 65% of their salary or their income, their money that's coming in, on their housing. That's not affordable. It has to be a metric where we look at 30% of someone's income as giving them enough left over to save up, to buy the groceries they need, to pay the bills they have to, and have a little bit left over.
How do we catch up when we don't have the stock of social housing? I mean, we've been talking about this for years and years in this country. And so now we're in crisis mode, and yet we're still now talking about plans moving forward. So what would if you were, there's an election next year, if the NDP were to get in, what would you promise and what would you do to try to deal with that?
I would look to our history. We have actually met the urgency of the need in the past. After the World War, Canada engaged in a massive building project, almost like a wartime effort after the war. And a lot of the first homes that people purchased were those victory homes or wartime homes, which were incredibly affordable. The way that was done was with federal money invested in bringing down the cost of those homes so people could actually afford to buy or to rent them. That's what we need to see. We need to see an all approach, not just one solution, but looking at cooperative housing, looking at not-for-profit housing. We really need to have a focus on affordability, use every bit of federal land that we have, and use it with the federal money and power that we have to build affordable homes that are within people's budgets to rent or to own. That's the difference between me and the Conservatives and the Liberals. Pierre Poilievre is not interested in building affordability. He wants to help out his developer friends. And Justin Trudeau has shown that he's out of touch on this, doesn't understand how dire things are. I get it. I remember the struggles that I faced when my family lost their home and when I had to take in my kid brother when I was in university and support him. I know what the struggles are like, and that's why I understand how important it is for us to really take this seriously.
8:21 a.m. Jagmeet Singh is in Winnipeg today and in studio with us, the federal leader of the NDP. Before you go, I just really do want to touch one other subject with you, and that is the green economy. So looking at our budget this week, Wab Kinew was saying he wants Manitoba to be exempt from the carbon tax because our hydro energy should already qualify as green energy. Do you agree that Manitoba is already paying enough?
Well, I think what Premier Kinew's laid out is absolutely the original vision was that each province should be able to come up with their plan. And with the significant investments that Manitoba has made in hydroelectricity, that does set the province in a different position than other provinces in terms of the amount of energy being produced in a way that's clean, in a way that's renewable. And so what Premier Kinew said is that let us make our own plan. And he acknowledges the need to fight the climate crisis, unlike Pierre Poilievre, who doesn't even believe there's a climate crisis.
And what do you believe? Would you scrap the carbon tax?
Well, I believe that there is clearly a cost of pollution. And so big polluters shouldn't be able to get away with it. But I am concerned about the idea, the way the Liberals have done it, where it puts burden on everyday families. And I don't think everyday families should be bearing the burden. I would take a different approach around incentives instead of punitive measures. And I would absolutely continue to make sure that we don't allow big polluters to pollute our water or land or our air. And so there's a way to approach this in a way that's reasonable.
Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for being here live. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That's Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the federal NDP in Winnipeg today. He will meet with Premier Wab Kinew. And also today we're mentioning off the top there that we are now, it's now been made official. This happened just yesterday in Winnipeg. MP Daniel Blakey has resigned from Elmwood Transcona seat. And yesterday officially that seat was labeled vacant. So he had held it for the NDP. From 2011 to 2015, it had been held provincially by the Progressive Conservatives.